Welcome to edge rings. In this video we're going to learn about edge rings, how they help you manage your geometry, and finally the definition of an edge ring is a series of edges which are not directly connected, however share faces with one another. So to explain that, let's hop over into Blender. Once we're in Blender, I've opened up a brand new blend file, so save the work you're working on and just open up a new Blender file. Brilliant. So let's delete the standard cube that we've got and create ourselves a good object to see this in action is a UV sphere. So go and add yourself a UV sphere and maybe scale it up a little so it's large in our workspace here. Brilliant. So this is a great example. So what we've done so far is we've selected edge loops, which are rings running round our objects. Okay, so that is an edge loop running along, I think that's longitudinally, if I can speak, and latitude along there as well. So those are the two edge loops, or ways the edge loops work in here. Now an edge ring is very similar, whereas with the edge loop we're holding down Alt as we're clicking these edge loops. The shortcut for edge rings is Control and Alt. So when you click that, you'll notice that, let's just start, we're doing vertices here. So make sure you're on Edge Select, there's always a good one, and hold down Alt and Control when you're selecting. And you can see it's selected, as the definition says, they're not directly connected with one another, but they're part of the same faces, and those run all the way around. And that's a slightly different selection than, of course, if you did the face select around. So if we, and it's very similar in some of the operations, because if we scale that in and out, it will operate in a very similar manner as scaling the face ring in and out along there, because you're manipulating certain edges. But it does give you more control over the geometry, so if you ever need to delete a certain series of edges, so if we deleted those edges and edges alone, we've cut the top of our ball in half, which is maybe useful if you wanted to add more geometry in, of course. And you can select the top bit, bottom bit, and then fix it with edges and bridge the edge loops there, and it comes back to shape again. So it's a great way of manipulating your geometry, and you may find it useful in the next few sections, especially when you start creating a bit more bespoke geometry. Okay guys, it's challenge time. I'd like you to finish the Queen's crown. So we're going to be creating the Queen's crown. I'd like you to be inventive and creative. Go a bit wild with it, if you will. Remember to keep it simple as the rest of the model is. If you make the crown too complex, it will look out of place. I do suggest you save as and try sticking with quads, and also try using triangles as well and see the results that you can get with them. So a few hints for this challenge. Save your file now. You should be saving regularly, but we're about to muck about with the file, so and we're quite likely to at some point muck it up completely. So of course, saving it is a great way of going back to the beginning. You can always go File, Revert, and Start again. Be prepared for the deletion and creation of geometry, especially if you go down the triangles route. Very straightforward to make a crown in principle, but you'll soon come into some shortfalls depending on which way you go. But have fun with it and don't get too frustrated. Remember, you can always undo it and start again if necessary. Just a reminder that the snapping tool itself may be your best friend, especially if you're creating geometry. So the solution that I'm going for, as I was alluding to earlier, I want the outside of my crown to remain flat. I'm quite eager for that to happen in this case. The inside, where it goes into the crown itself, I'm quite happy if there are a few triangles inside there. Now that will break some loops, but at this point in time I'm happy because the triangles themselves I'm going to get right as I'm making them. Okay, so pause the video now, go give that a go. I'd love to see your results as well, and I'll see you in a few moments where I'm going to make this. Okay guys, welcome back. How did you get on? Let's crack on in Blender. Okay, so over in Blender itself, right, we've got our queen here. Now they're coming to a point, so at some point we're going to have to actually subdivide this edge going around here, so we've got some points to go through so they can go in this zigzag method up and down. Now looking at our model, there's a couple of ways we can go about that, but we do need to be careful of the order of which we do things. So if I subdivide this face ring going round here, it will make the face loops either side null and void because they'll suddenly have nowhere to go. It'll also create n-gons around this bit here and this bit on the inside as well. Now I'm happy with that, so I'm going to delete the inside bit anyway. So bearing that in mind, if I'm going to be deleting this inside bit, I should select it now, and in face mode of course, and delete it whilst we're here. So it's important to now decide which deletion method we're going to do. I want to delete the edges going around here as well. In fact, in this case, I will probably just want to delete the faces themselves, or the edges. Well, I don't want to select the inside edges and delete them, so it's just going to be the faces in this case. Excellent, so that's gotten rid of some of our geometry here. I'm now going to select this face loop going around and simply subdivide it. And that's going to give us some midpoints we can work to. The next thing to do is to actually make the midpoints themselves, and we're going to have to do a couple of things here in order to combine the geometry into that. So I'm going to want to pull some of these edges together. Now I'm going to keep this series of face flatness coming up our model. So I'll want to join these two bits together. So from there to here. There's a couple of ways I can do that. I can obviously split the face in two. And if I grab this vertex, I mean, one of the things we could do is turn on snapping and move that vertex over here. That would create one triangle, but we'd lose the ability to make the triangle on the other side. So at this point, I am literally going to go round this loop. So this is still selectable as a face loop if we're in face select. So around here, and I'm going to delete the faces. So let's go in and X and only faces. There we go. So that's left our geometry around here. That's great for building up what we're about to do. And let's go to vertex select, and we're going to literally fill in these gaps. So I'm going to use the F key here to fill in. So that's those bits there, and we're just going to literally go around the model now and do this a couple of times, probably 16 in total. Now, when you're constructing geometry itself, it can be quite time consuming. I've spent a few minutes actually thinking about what I wanted to do before going ahead, and by doing this we've essentially created a framework that allows the geometry I'm creating to be planar with the area underneath, and so therefore look flat when we're shading. I've tried loads of other ways of doing it and it just doesn't work. So the next thing is to just go around and basically remove the support pillars that we've been working. I think that's the final one. Excellent, so we've deleted those edges there, and now we've got some geometry that we can work to. Now it needs to come back in as well, and to make sure I'm not totally confused, 1, 2, 3, 4, that actually keeps it as 4 as well if we go through and delete these middle vertex or middle vertical edges. Too many things starting with V here. So there we go. Now we can fill in these as we go as well. So fill, that's actually a quad, which is kind of cool. Fill. Excellent. So I want to build triangles up now going to this point here. So I essentially want that edge there and here, and that's going to be one face. And then I'm just literally going to hold down shift, remove a vertex that's the last one in a line, and literally go around our model. So we've only got one vertex to remove every time, and it'll be the last one in the line, as we can see going around there. And let's just check it as we go. That looks good to me. I'm gonna what I haven't done, of course, is flipped into rendered mode. That looks lovely there, and that looks nice on the inside as well. We've got the triangles where I want triangles, which is quite important. Okay, excellent. So there we go. That's created. I will now just have a quick look and see which parts of my geometry have been ruined So I can no longer select the edge loop running around there, and I probably can't select this one, but I can select this one. So now I'm aware that this is a 5-sided N-gon, but I'm happy with that as it is, because I know it's like that, and we're not going to deform it in that place. If we were going to deform or animate around that area, then I'd certainly consider adding further geometry so I can control the deformation. This crown around the top, well, that's not an issue there. If anything, what I would like to do is add in an edge loop just here. So so that acts as the base of the triangle, and then I've got a bit more control over the shape and position of, let's lock back to the Z and move it down ever so slightly. So I've got a bit more control there over my model itself, and then it looks a bit more like a crown. In fact, I'm going to move this edge loop in ever so slightly so it's not chamfered, and I've still got snapping turned on. I'm going to turn that off to stop me ruining my own model. Then finally at the top here, one of the things I noticed while I was in face mode is there are these dots running around here. Now that is simply because there is an ingrowing face somewhere that's tiny, and I don't think that adds anything to the model itself. So I'm going to grab the edge loop running around there and literally just move it up slightly so it's there, and perhaps scale it out as well. And that will give the ball on top a bit more prominence as well. In fact, I'm going to grab this edge loop and move it up as well, just in the Z-axis, so that these are roughly the right height and it rounds off quite nicely. Brilliant! How did you guys get on? Let's hop over into rendered mode. I'd love to see what you came up with for your Queen's Crown, and I will see you in the next lecture.